definitely worth it. Thank you,
All right, thank you. Thanks, Mimi. All right, welcome to the very first aquatic workshop here at Martinson's. This is like history in the making. This is yeah, I've been preparing this for a while, and let me just take a moment to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrew Ewing, and I've been learning about plants to one degree or another most of my life. Growing up, my mom had a plant nursery where she specialized in herbs and perennial flowers. That's really what got me started, and went to school for landscape management. Spent about 20 years working in the landscape industry. Um, in 2017, I started getting into aquatic plants. Really, it was kind of like a rediscovery because as a kid, I dabbled in it and dug out ponds in my parents' front yard and everything, and learned a little bit about plants. But this time, it was like I fell way down the rabbit hole this time. I mean, it was awesome, and like this whole new world of plants I'd never known before opened up. And so in 2020, I started a YouTube channel called Plant Life Project. So I started making videos on how to set up planted aquariums indoors, but also ponds outdoors. And so the videos are just documenting the process of each project and showing the viewers step by step, how to put it all together and how to maintain it, how to make it easier to care for, things like that. So yeah, in January of this year, I came on with Gardenworks, and I'm helping build up their aquatic plant department out there, which we hope will continue to grow. And yeah, we want to do more seminars like this, and so this is the first of, I hope, many like this that we can do. So anyway, that kind of leads us here to this workshop. And so what I'm going to do is just assemble one of these mini ponds and show you step by step, just like I would on a video. So first off, though, how many of you are familiar with mini ponds, water gardening, things like that? So the concept is really pretty simple. So most of the time when people think of water gardening or ponds, they think of an in-ground koi pond, something that's like 500 gallons, kind of expensive to install, maybe a little bit of trouble to keep up and everything. So, but we like the environment, the aquatic environment, the moving water. It's just very soothing. So mini ponds is taking that concept and shrinking it down to a more manageable level and a less expensive level. And it can fit anywhere pretty much. I mean, if you have this much square footage, balcony, patio, doesn't matter if you're in an apartment, as long as your landlord lets you keep them, you can have one of these mini ponds. And so that opens up a whole new world for a lot of people who can't do the in-ground koi pond or who just don't want to fool with it. So that makes me excited about it because, I can set one up without breaking the bank and without, hurting my back and doing all that stuff. So that's the concept that we're kind of putting together here. So I've got a selection of plants, and all these plants we do sell here. We grow and sell, and there's different size planters that we're going to be using. But before we get into that, let's talk about the vessel that we're using, the pot. We've got a few different options here. This one is actually made for container ponds, and it's made to fit inside a wooden whiskey barrel, like what you find at Lowe's or whatever. But you can also put it inside of a clay pot. If you have a clay pot that's the right diameter and everything, you can slip this right down into it and turn any decorative clay pot into a water feature. My favorite container to use are these faux whiskey barrels that are pretty much everywhere. Everybody has these. They're pretty easy to find, and they're inexpensive. They're durable. I've got some that are a couple of years old that I keep outside year round, as mini ponds. And the bottom usually comes with a plug. I don't know if you can see. There's a spot where I actually siliconed it. So I just use 100% silicone to just plug up the hole. And you want to make sure it's 100% silicone, not the kind with the, the additives that, are colors or anything like that. This needs to be 100% pure silicone. And once it cures, it's safe for fish, for aquatic plants, for any aquatic life, really. So this is the container we're going to be using. And the first step is going to be putting in the substrate on the bottom. So a lot of people use gravel. Some people use the glass beads, something decorative, I like to use pea gravel. And this is just regular a bag of pea gravel, like what we sell here. And this is, I don't know, I can't remember how many pounds. I didn't really measure out how many pounds, but this amount right here is the perfect amount to put in the bottom. And so I just dump it in. The point of it, I tell you, one thing I forgot to mention, the questions, I'm going to offer a time afterward for questions. So if you would, make note of your questions and we can ask them later. And there are certain questions I will be covering throughout the process, kind of frequently asked. And so so there will be time for that afterward. But yeah, please do ask after we get done here. So the gravel is going to be about 2 inches. And in addition to the gravel, I like to use, I'll bring it around in just a minute. I need to open this bag up. In addition to the gravel, I use calcined clay, which is available in a lot of different forms. You can get it as an oil spill cleanup material. It's used to put in baseball fields. It's used in all-natural cat litter. So it's used for a lot of different things. So I actually buy, a bag of cat litter, 100% cat litter, no additives, no fragrances, no clumping agents. It's just pure clay, 100% calcined clay. And, it's a baked clay product, so it's pretty granular. It doesn't dissolve easily. But I put about half of a bag in here with the pea gravel. And at first it is kind of dusty until you get it wet. Now just mix it up with the gravel. So it ends up being about 2 inches deep, give or take. And so the benefit of having a substrate like this, first of all, is just for aesthetic value. We like to look in the bottom and see sand or rocks. You could use sand, by the way. I just prefer pea gravel like this. But also the clay is beneficial for water quality, keeping the water clear, and also for growing the plants, because we're going to be planting a few things down in the very bottom toward the end of the build here. So a lot of the planting media, all the planting media that these grow in are based on calcined clay. So it makes for a really good growing media for a lot of plants. So now we're going to put in the first plant, the first basket. I chose to use this, it's a 10 by 10 inch square kind of mixed planter that we also sell out back. And this tall plant is called umbrella sedge. I think it's about 4 feet tall or so. It's a dwarf umbrella sedge. The regular kind can get 6 feet or whatever, but I try to stick with dwarf varieties as much as possible since we're growing it in such a small container. But then underneath is going to be some creeping jenny and a juga or bugleweed. And most people don't realize that you can grow those in an aquatic setting, but they do very well. They're going to be above water, so we can't set this thing directly in because it'll be too deep underwater. So one way you could raise it is by putting some bricks in the bottom, just clay bricks, masonry bricks. Stack them up probably two levels high or so. But I like to use the basket. This is the planting basket that all this is growing in. It's an empty one. I just turn it upside down and just put it in place kind of toward the back. And it's plenty strong enough to hold up the weight of this planter basket. So now it's at just the right height. You know, it's sitting on top of that gravel, which is about 2 inches or so, and then the basket. So that puts it at just the right height. And I kind of scoot it back all the way to the back rim so that it's nice and stable. And if you want, you know, you can attach it like with a hook or something. We do sell some hooks. I'll get into that later. But really, I haven't had any problems with this, you know, moving around, even in storms and everything. It stays put. There's enough weight to it. Over time, the roots of the plants are going to grow down, and they'll grow all inside the other empty basket, and they'll kind of anchor themselves. So it's pretty effective in my experience. So it stays in place pretty well. Now, even just that, you could do a mini pond using just that if you wanted to. It doesn't take much, and it almost doesn't even matter what kind of plants you put in there, what kind of aquatic plants, because it's all beautiful, I think. So, but I like to cram as many plants as I can into a project. So the next plant that we're going to use is called variegated water celery, and it has a spreading growth habit. So it will send out runners and spread, and eventually you will have to trim it to some extent. But it's pretty easy to maintain in a confined setting. This is not one that I would really recommend planting in an in-ground pond, just because it can spread so much. A lot of the spreading habit plants, aquatic plants, do tend to be pretty aggressive, and it can require a lot of upkeep if they're in the ground or in an in-ground pond. But in a setting like this, they're just so much easier to manage. So how are we going to hang this on the rim? We're going to do that by using some hooks. Again, you could use bricks if you wanted to, but I do prefer using these hooks. These are just like stainless steel hooks that are coated with black rubber, black vinyl, and so they blend in with everything, and they hold up really well in this kind of setting. I don't have issues with them rusting or anything like that. Of course, they're stainless steel. So these, let me show you with the empty pot first. Maybe you can see it better. So these hooks, they just slide right into the slot, the side of the mesh pot. And you can put 2 of them, and they just hang nicely onto the edge, just like that. So that's what I do with these smaller 6-inch and 5-inch net pots. Just hang on the side. And I like to, move in close to the square basket. And sometimes a little bit of adjusting is needed. There's not really a exact width you have to go for to spread them apart, but you just kind of play with it until you get a good fit on the width there. So now on the other side, I chose to use this African sunset canna. It's got these beautiful multicolored leaves, and when the sun hits it, especially from behind, I mean, these look like they're glowing. They're beautiful. It's definitely one of my favorites. If at any point during this, if you need to get up and come closer to see, because I know it may be harder in the back, feel free to do that. You don't have to stay seated, and I think we've got enough people here that wouldn't get too crazy. So yeah, if you need to come up and look at it closer, feel free to while I'm putting it together. Oh, I forgot to mention that we are live streaming on YouTube this morning. So y'all are going to be famous after this. Hopefully I will too. It's been a long time coming, I tell you. How many ponds do I have to put together? But anyway, so a taller plant like this, you kind of want to move it around, find the right spot. But, it's easy to do that. So I'll leave it right there. And some of these, may need to be trimmed back a little bit, but we'll do that later. So now we've got the majority of our plants put there. So let me talk a minute about the plant design, the layout. It's, we're all familiar, I think, with the concept of, thriller, filler, and spiller when we're putting together flower pots. Something tall in the middle or the back, something kind of medium height that fills in the middle space, and then something in the front or the sides that spill over. So that same principle can be used for, putting these mini ponds together. And like I said earlier, it almost doesn't matter what plants you put together. I mean, it's all going to look great. I do like to try to contrast, the leaf sizes and shapes. This umbrella sedge just has a real narrow texture to it, almost a grass-like texture. And then having something with a broad leaf and a different color next to it really helps each of those plants stand out more. Same with the water celery. Any kind of variegated plant next to a solid green plant is going to just show up so much better. And then, of course, the ajuga is dark, and the creeping jenny is kind of a chartreuse color. So anyway, you can think about that while you're putting your plants together and deciding which plants you want to use. So just some basic concepts that I think work really well for mini ponds. So the next step is going to be mounting the bamboo fountain. Now, it's not entirely necessary to have running water or flowing water in these mini ponds. The ones that I keep in my backyard, I don't have any fountains, and they're perfectly fine. They're clear. The fish are happy. Fish are healthy. But most of us do like the sound of running water. We like the ambiance of that. And having a fountain like this with moving water provides a focal point. It gives our eyes something to go to naturally in the mini pond. So that's part of the benefits. Now I'm going to have to probably get in front here and totally block the view while I set this up. Maybe I can scoot this to the side. So this is a bamboo fountain kit. We sell these here. They're different designs. Some lay flat on the frame, but I like these tall ones because you get more movement and sound when it's operating. So what we're going to do is mount it to the front of the basket. And my favorite thing in the world are zip ties. I love zip ties, man. You can hold the world together with zip ties. So with the basket, this lip or this rim on the basket sticks out a little bit, and it makes it kind of awkward for this, doesn't sit quite right. So what I've done is just created a notch, just cut out a notch with a pair of pruners. And that creates enough of a recess for this main stem to fit kind of into, helps keep it a little bit more stable. And so I just used 2 zip ties, one on either end, and this is going to be completely awkward because everybody's watching, so I can't mess up. No, I got it. It just takes a minute. It takes a minute of being awkward and fumbling around, but eventually get it right. That's life, isn't it? So that's one side. So I'm just running these zip ties through the holes that are already in the basket and wrapping it around this back piece of bamboo toward the back. And I'll have to cut those off a little bit later. But using black zip ties definitely helps everything kind of blend in together. And sometimes it leans forward maybe a little more than you want. And if that's the case, you can always put something in the back of the stem toward the bottom. That helps keep it straight. But once you put it in place, if it's not leaning forward just a little bit, you'll end up with water coming out and running back, which is not that big of a deal, but I like to have the solid stream coming out. So now the pump and the wire, we can just kind of orient between the plants and kind of hide that pump toward the back. So, man, it's really coming together now. I've put together dozens of these things. It never gets old. I mean, it's just as much fun now as it was the first time I put one together. It's great. So be careful, it gets addictive. Now we're going to plant the underwater plants in the substrate. Let me go get them. Got a few selections over here. Now, one of my favorite underwater plants is called Dwarf Sagittaria. And as it spreads along the bottom, it kind of creates a carpet effect in the bottom of the pond. And this is a very popular aquarium plant, easy to grow, doesn't require a tremendous amount of light, can grow just about any type of water quality. This is actually a native plant to the southeast. It's native here to Mississippi and all of our surrounding states. So I usually put about 3 of these. They kind of grow in these, they come in these little net pots. And you can take them out if you want to, plant them directly in the gravel. But it works pretty well just to kind of push it down the gravel a little bit. And from there, you can see some of the new sprouts coming out. It's going to spread and start growing on its own in that substrate. And again, I know nobody can see what I'm doing here, but feel free to come up and look if you want. And of course, we're going to fill this up with water in a few minutes too, get the pump going. So I usually put, about 2 or 3. I'll just put 3 in here this time. Leaving a little bit of space toward the front because I'm going to be putting a water lily in there in a few minutes. So now I think we're ready to fill it up with water. Oh, of course. That'll work. If I was smart, I would have an assistant helping me, but nope. One thing I try to avoid is high water pressure churning up the substrate. So if you have an adjustment on here, make sure it's kind of like on the shower setting. That's not it. Yeah. I was telling Mimi earlier that it's hard to look intelligent when you're wrestling with a water hose, and I think the same thing can apply to this. Every setting works except the one that I need. I'll have to make that work. Might take twice as long, but one thing we can do, now that I'm thinking about it, laying something down like, Tupperware lid or even a plastic bag on the bottom to help deflect the water flow, it works pretty well. And also having the basket upside down gives you something to deflect the water also. That's just going to take too long. Yeah, I might need some help up here. Yeah, this one, hopefully we don't sell these. This is not good advertising. Oh, there we go. This will work. This must be what the other guys sell. This is what you get at Home Depot or something. All right. Now, when you fill it up, that water is going to be dirty. It's going to look dirty. It's going to be cloudy. Not much you can do about it except beforehand, wash your gravel really well, get that mud off of it. The clay is just going to make it cloudy at first, but it settles down after even just 2 or 3 days. And all the display ponds like this that I've made outside, I just left them alone after I filled them up, and within 2 or 3 days, everything settles down and clears up. So if you want to, you can kind of do like a partial water change and put fresh in there. But you like how this worked after you left the room, maybe?
Oh, it's going good?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's working now, but thank you, I appreciate it. So while that's filling up, I want to do what I can to hide the plastic on these planters. So there's a few plants that I like to use for that purpose. The first one is Japanese pennywort, and it's another popular aquarium plant, but it also grows very well outdoors. It can grow above water, it doesn't have to be underwater. Japanese pennywort, sometimes it's called Japan pennywort. The thing I love about it is it's so easy to divide kind of as needed, and all it takes is just a small sprig to get started. So when you buy a whole plant like this, you can divide it into a number of pieces. It doesn't have to be growing in the soil. Look, there's roots all over the stems, and so it's just like an automatic plant. So I usually put the pennywort in these smaller containers, just kind of drape it over the side to hide the plastic. And you don't really have to plant it in there. You can just lay it on top of that clay media, and it's going to root over time. The main thing is it needs to stay wet. But some of it's going to be growing above the water. Some's going to be trailing down into the water. And you'll see in our ponds outside, a lot of it needs to be trimmed back, really, because it can, grow everywhere. But that's a good problem to have. Plant growth like this, where you have to thin it out constantly, those are the kind of problems you want to have when you're water gardening, rather than, oh, my plant won't grow. It's nice to have the opposite problem. So that's the problems I try to give you around here. So that does a good job hiding that pot. I can still see a good bit of plastic here under the fountain. So for that, I have Java moss. It's also a very popular aquarium plant. It's an aquatic moss. It can grow underwater or above as long as it stays wet. It can't dry out. So the trick to keeping it wet above water is you take a piece of it that's big enough that you can kind of drape it over the rim of that planter so that some of it's touching the water. And it will wick up enough water to keep it alive and growing. And eventually it will adhere to the plastic, and it'll even grow down the side so that it's completely camouflaging all the plastic. And I can show you outside how it's done that over the course of about 2 months. But my biggest fear when I use Java moss is that I'm going to spend the time to put it all in place, and then some little kid's going to come up behind me and say, "Oh, what's this? What's this?" But that hasn't happened yet, thankfully. And again, if I was smart, I would have waited to zip tie this after I got the moss in place, but nobody's perfect. And we can drape it over the bamboo piece. That's what I'm going to have to do. I'm just going to drape it over. So it's going to kind of hide part of the fountain as well, if that's all right. Now, once the water level gets up to where we want it, it'll be easier to kind of gauge how much more we need to put down. But this moss is really cool. It's got to be my favorite moss to use because it's just so hardy, easy to grow. It can even survive the winters here. Some of it will die back, but there's always enough pieces of it that live, and it replenishes itself pretty easily. Let's see if I can get over here. And there's a few places in the back. I'll have to. So this can be kind of a tedious process. And you can be as tedious as you want to with it, or just not care. It's up to you. One thing I think I forgot to mention, now that I'm filling this thing up, is before you fill it up with water, before you do anything, it's good to have a drain hole, an overflow, for when it rains and it fills up. You don't want it just all draining over the top. If you drill a hole, I think that's going to be good. If you drill a hole about an inch or two from the top, and I like to use a large bit, at least a 1/2 inch size hole. And if you plug that hole with like polyester batting or cotton ball, because cotton balls are made out of polyester now, put that in there and it'll help act as a screen. The overflow can get out, but it'll keep your fish or the baby fish or whatever from falling out in a heavy rain. And I like to usually put that in the back so that I don't see it. It blends in with everything. It's hidden. So now I want to put the water lily in. The only thing that's left for me to do now is trip on this hose. On YouTube, for the world to see. Water lily. So we have a pretty wide variety of water lilies out there, different colors. And then we have some surprise water lilies, which means we don't know what the heck the color is going to be on that bloom. Usually they come in without tags or something, and so this is one of our surprise water lilies. I think it's going to be red or pink. Usually when the underside of the leaves kind of have that reddish tint, that usually indicates the bloom is going to be similar in color. We talk a minute about the pot that it's growing in. This is just kind of a standard 4-inch nursery pot. Some of our water lilies are grown in the round net pots, just like we have these other marginals in. And on these nursery pots, I'm just growing it in calcined clay, like I am on the other plants, and put some fertilizer in the bottom. And I can show you in more detail later how we do that outside. But and that's sufficient for growing good, healthy water lilies. And they're pretty heavy feeders, and so it's good to replenish that nutrition once a month or so. But the longer that the pond is in place and becomes more established, it tends to not need as much supplemental fertilizer because it's getting enough nutrients from everything in all the life in the pond. So thankfully this water ended up being relatively clear, which is good. Normally it's cloudy, but that's not bad at all. So now I want to plug in the fountain. I just set it on top.
And if the plant's taller than the water level, it'll adjust itself, huh?
Yeah, the leaves will, and we'll get to our question session afterward. So that's a little faster than I want, these pumps are adjustable, so you can adjust the flow rate. If you don't have to go to the bathroom now, you will by the end of this. But yeah, just a nice steady flow. So, hey, we got us a mini pond now. Pretty fun, huh? Yeah. So now I'd like to talk about some frequently asked questions. And I got to turn that off. I can't talk while this is going. I'll plug it in later. So the first one is the maintenance on a mini pond. One of the benefits of it is that they are low maintenance. Well, what does that mean? What do I really have to do, on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis, whatever? When you first set them up, it's going to take a little time for things to get established. You'll probably have to do some fertilizing once a month on the plants. You'll probably have to do some water quality control until it becomes established. So algae is kind of an issue at first. So that kind of leads me to a point of placement, or where you're going to locate this mini pond. If you put it in an area where it gets afternoon sun all day, every day, you're just going to have algae problems. All that excess sunlight is going to just cause a huge algae bloom. So it's good to find a spot where it can get some direct sun, but if it can be semi-shade, partial sun, most of the time, that's kind of ideal. And of course, we all have to work with the location that we have. But benefit of the pond being this size is it's easy to move around if you need to. If you put it in one place and you're like, it's not working too well, let me move it over here. You can just drain the water and move it pretty easily. You can even put these on a plant dolly, and roll it around if you need to. It makes it a lot easier. So there's creative ways to solve the issue. And what else was I going to say about maintenance? Algae. I'll talk more about algae in a few minutes because that's a whole topic unto itself. So the maintenance is really not bad. Now during the fall, you're going to have leaves collecting in here. Maybe even through the spring and summer if you have a sweet gum tree like I do. It seems to always be dropping something. But you'll have to clean out some leaves from time to time. You'll have to, hopefully you'll have the problem of your plants growing so well that you got to trim them back. I mean, that's part of why it's enjoyable. It gives you something to just kind of fiddle with. It gives you something to just zone out and kind of play around with. So that I don't mind doing maintenance like that on mine. Mine's been up. I have one that I keep up year round, and I have like 6 or 7 or maybe it's 10 or more. I don't know that I keep up seasonally because I'm breeding rice fish in my backyard, and I'll talk about rice fish too. But the one that's out there year round, summer, winter, whatever. I mean, the longer it's there, the easier it is to take care of because the more stable it becomes. I think the only thing I had to do to it this spring was just I drained part of the water and cleaned out some leaves that I missed in the fall. And I had to divide the dwarf Sagittaria growing on the bottom because it was getting too thick. But that was it. And now it's probably going to be fine until fall or winter. So I'm sure y'all have questions about maintenance later, and we'll get to those in the question time. But occasional debris cleanout leaves, algae. Another important factor is what kind of fish are you keeping in here and how many of them? Because the more fish you have, the more waste they're going to produce, the harder it is going to be to keep the water clean and clear. So that leads us into the second frequently asked question, what kind of fish can I keep in here? Most people want to keep goldfish in a container pond, and that can be fine. I have a goldfish container pond. It's a stock tank. I've got 2 of them actually. But I've got goldfish in them and lots of plants, and they do great. No filtration system, and pretty, don't have to do much. It's just the maintenance is the same as I described for this. It's just a larger container. So that would be really better for goldfish. This is kind of too small because goldfish, they can get 12 inches. And I'm not talking about koi, I'm talking about common goldfish that you buy from Petco, PetSmart, wherever. They can get up to 12 inches and they live a long time. So a container this size is really too small for them. To be healthy, they really need space to grow. Now, you could do it for a while they're still small, but eventually, for the benefit of the fish, it'd be good to have a larger container for it. So an ideal fish for these, I think, is Japanese rice fish. They're very popular in the aquarium hobby, and as the name indicates, they originate in Japan. They've been a very popular pet fish there for decades, if not centuries. And they're like a minnow-like fish that originated in kind of rice paddy setting. So they're used to shallow water. They're used to still water conditions, or you can have a fountain. They're very tolerant of temperature swings. They can handle our summers. They can handle our winters outside year-round. And they reproduce easily, so you can replenish your population over time. And they're small. Again, they're like a minnow-sized fish, and they're colorful. They come in a variety of colors over the centuries. They've been kind of bred, developed by hobbyists, and to have all these different colors. So the ones we have outside, we sell rice fish. We have white or pearl rice fish now. We used to have orange. I think we sold out of those. There's also blue ones. I have blue ones at my house. That's my favorite one. It's like a metallic blue color, and they're just beautiful. They show up so well in the water. So as soon as I get enough babies off of my breeding program, I'll have to bring some here to sell because they're really cool. So they're just an ideal fish, and for this size. So that's really what I recommend. Mosquito fish is another option. If you're familiar with mosquito fish, they're a native fish to everywhere, it seems like. I'm not even sure if they're true natives here anymore. I think they're all over the world at this point. But they're a minnow-sized fish that live in our creeks, ponds, streams, ditches. They can live just about anywhere. And they're really good at keeping mosquito larvae down, but so are the rice fish. The downside to the mosquito fish is they're so dark, it's hard to see them. They don't show up as well in the water as the rice fish do. So, but they both do a good job of controlling the mosquitoes. That kind of leads us into, another question is, will this cause a mosquito problem in my backyard? So anytime you have standing water, that's naturally going to attract mosquitoes that are in your area. The key is to keep them from reproducing, because when they start reproducing, that's when you get the problem, the mosquito outbreak. And so if you have fish in here, like rice fish or mosquito fish, they're going to do a great job of controlling. They're going to eat as many mosquito larvae as they can eat every day for their whole lives. I mean, that's really sufficient to keep the mosquito problem from becoming a problem. But another option is using mosquito dunks. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Mosquito dunks, you can find them just about anywhere, and we have plenty for y'all. We have loads of them. They are these little donut-looking things. Yeah. That's really why they hired me, because I told them I have a way to sell these things. But they're a biological mosquito control. It uses a type of bacillus bacteria, and that targets mosquito larvae only. Safe to use for fish, safe for other aquatic life, but deadly for mosquito larvae. And they're very effective. For a pond this size, you can break this into quarters and just throw 1/4 of a dunk in there every 30 days. It's good for 30 days. It's kind of a slow release. And so if you kind of get in that habit, every 30 days, add another one. That works so well, whether you have fish or not. I use these here in our ponds, also in the greenhouse, because I don't keep any fish in our production greenhouse, and I've got standing water everywhere growing these plants. So I use these in the greenhouse and have not had a mosquito problem. So they're very effective, and you can use them in bird baths, anything that holds water in your backyard. So highly recommend these with or without fish. So the next one, okay, let's get into algae now. So one of the most common forms of algae when you first set up a mini pond is going to be green water algae, or some people call it pea soup algae because it's green, thick, looks like pea soup. It's actually a type of phytoplankton. It's not really technically an algae, but it's got some benefits for the fish. There's microorganisms living all in that water. So it's actually good for them, but we don't like the way it looks. You know, it's green. We don't want our water to be green. What is this, St. Patty's Day? No, it's not. So the best thing to do, over time it'll kind of clear itself out, but to speed up the process, if you use microbial algae clean, this is another non-chemical product. It's bacterial based, a type of bacteria that targets the phytoplankton that cause the green algae blooms. And this works very well. I've used it in our greenhouse in the back, and just to test it out, works like a charm. And it's actually helpful for the ecosystem. A lot of algicides, some are safe to use with plants, but all of them, you got to be careful not to put too much in because they can be detrimental to the microorganisms that are living in your pond. They can help control algae, but they can be misused, in other words, overdone before you realize it. So this you don't have to worry about. It's a natural beneficial bacteria. And the more of it you have in here, the more it's going to do its job. So this is a really good product if you have that problem. Now, before you start throwing algicides in your mini pond, it's good to have an idea, an understanding of algae and its place in the world, because we typically only see it as a nuisance, as a problem, because when we notice it, it usually is a problem. That's when it is out of control. But algae in and of itself is not harmful. It's actually very beneficial. It's a natural part of an ecosystem, an aquatic ecosystem. It provides food for microorganisms, which then in turn, that's food for fish. And so there's a cycle there of life. But when there's too many nutrients in the water or too much sunlight, that's when algae can just get out of control, explode, and take over. And so that's what we're really trying to avoid. We're not trying to kill all the algae necessarily. We're trying to control the growth of it. And the older your pond gets, the more seasoned and established, the more those beneficial bacteria are going to be colonizing every surface under the water, and they help act as a natural filter. They're part of the biological filter. That's a term that's thrown around a lot in the hobby. And so that just refers to the beneficial species of bacteria that naturally live in water that help break down the waste in the water. They eat up ammonia that's secreted by fish and other aquatic life. And so whatever you can do to foster the growth of those beneficial bacteria, that's going to help you prevent algae growth. It's going to help you just have a stable, more healthy pond, more healthy ecosystem. And so if you let this sit outside on its own, it'll take several months, maybe a year, but over time, beneficial bacteria will naturally colonize and form the way you want it to. But it can be very helpful to introduce those bacteria at the front end when you first set it up to get that cycle going as quickly as possible. And that can prevent some algae outbreaks in the near future. It can solve a lot of issues before they become issues. And so we recommend using a product made by a company called Microlift, and it's a bottle of beneficial bacteria. And I will not open this bottle in this room because it smells horrible, because it's bacteria. But it's beneficial to the aquatic ecosystem. It comes with a measuring cup and pretty good instructions on how much to put in, certain size container. I've I use just a full measuring cup in there when I first set one up, and then every week or so, add another one. They kind of give you a schedule on the bottle as to how often. And so this isn't something you necessarily have to do forever, but on the front end, if you just plan to use one whole bottle as directed, that really can help you get your beneficial bacteria going without having to wait as long for them to naturally colonize. And it's also good to use, like if you do have like a massive water change. Anytime you remove water, you are removing certain numbers of that bacteria. So replenishing it with fresh water, putting another scoop of the Microlift in there helps to keep that balance. So tap water, you can use tap water. I just use tap water to fill this up. And it does have chlorine, it's got chloramines, and depending on where you live in the world, it could have other toxic compounds. Thankfully, we have reasonable water. But the problem of the chlorine and the chloramines, that's an issue because that can be harmful when you start adding fish. Now, a lot of that will evaporate on its own after a few days, after a week. But if you're planning to add fish soon, like that day, it's good to use a dechlorinator. And anytime you do a water change, it's good to use a dechlorinator. The one that I like to use is called Aqua Essential. I use this here for the ponds. I use it for my aquariums at home. And anytime I don't do water changes very often. I don't think it's necessary if you set things up right in the beginning. But anytime you do change the water or have to top it off, in the summertime, a lot of water evaporates. You got to top it off. Putting the Aqua Essential in there is going to help with that chlorine issue. And the lid, the cap of it is a measuring cup. And so there's a 5 milliliter mark and a 10. And I just put it on the 5. That's about what you need for this volume of water. 5 mils per 20 gallons. That's about 20 gallons of water. So back to algae. Algae is a symptom of the problem. It's not the problem. Overgrowth of algae is a symptom. So what we're trying to do is just manage that. We want to take care of the little ecosystem that we put together, and when we do that, the algae becomes kind of a non-issue over time. And we can talk more about that one-on-one later if you want to. And I have 2 videos about algae, and they're like 15 minutes long each. So if you really want to geek out on algae, there's 2 videos out there on my channel that you can do that. But it'll help you get a better understanding of just algae and its place in the world, So I've already told you about what I do in the winter with this. I leave it outside. Now, a lot of these plants are going to be perennials. We do have some that are tropical and that will not survive winter here, but all of these are going to be perennial. And so all the growth is going to die back, and you'll have to cut it down, just like we do in our flower beds at home. And in the springtime, they'll start growing back again. If you do have tropical plants, all you got to do is just take them out because we have, hooks on these. So they're just hanging there. Nothing's permanent here. So you can take it out, keep it in the garage or, wherever you keep it at your house to overwinter it. And it'll still go dormant, if it's a tropical, but it'll usually come back depending on the plant. So, these can be outside year-round if you plan accordingly. So I think now it's time to open the floor up for questions. So,
I forgot all.
well, you're supposed to have a notepad, man.
What happens with frost?
In the frost, like if it freezes. So we had about 15 degrees at my house for a few days last winter. I think everybody had about that weather, depending on who you talk to. And I got about 3 inches or so of ice on the top. And my rice fish were fine. They just kind of hunker down to the bottom. They kind of semi-hibernate. The benefit we have in our area is that we don't have 15 degrees every day for a month or 2 months or 3 months. You know, it fluctuates all over the place. And so when it freezes, it'll be that way for however long the cold is, and then it'll melt, and we'll have 80 degrees in a week, you know. So that actually is to our benefit right now in our area. So, yeah, so the freeze is not really an issue. If you have a lot of fish in there, I would probably break the ice, try to keep a section open so that, you know, there can be air exchange and everything, so the fish won't starve for oxygen. But does that answer your question? Okay.
And the plants too, they're fine.
Yeah, plants will be fine. As long as you have, you've selected cold hardy plants, you know they're going to die back. They're perennials, that's their life cycle. They're going to die back, and, you know, they'll be fine. They're just, you're just waiting for spring, you know. Now some plants, okay, so the canna, if you plant these in the ground, they are perennial. I would probably want to protect a canna lily, because my experience has been if I leave them just in the water like this, they're not insulated enough, and they do tend to not come back. That's just been my experience with them, but in the ground, they're very reliable at coming back. But other than that, these others, they will come back. They can freeze solid, and they'll still survive. So, anybody else?
What was the difference between the microbial algae clean and the Microlift? Do you use them together?
You can, yeah. They're both beneficial bacteria products, just different forms.
Do you use them at the same time?
You can use them at the same time, yes.
Do you need to?
Is it absolutely necessary? You have to? And that answer is no, it's not absolutely necessary. These kind of products, what they do is they buy you time. Like I said earlier, if you just left it outside over several months, a year, it'll colonize with the appropriate amount of bacteria. But products like this help speed up that process, and they can prevent things like algae overgrowth when they're used as directed. And it just helps kind of kickstart your ecosystem when you use these products. So they're not absolutely necessary, but they just help you along the way. They buy you that time. Is that?
Different kinds of bacteria?
Yeah. And I can't get into the details of, I'm not into bacteria yet, that deep. So, but does that answer your question generally? Okay.
So the soil for any water plant that you're going to put in here is going to be cat litter.
Yeah, it's just going to be this calcined clay. Yeah.
So I have some pots that I see, saucers. How big a pot do I have to have for a plant? It's really irrelevant if it's always in water.
Yeah, it's more a matter of just, the room for the roots to grow, I guess. Is that what you're getting at? Like determining what size pot the plant needs? So we do sell different sizes of planters. So these plants, like the canna, for example, this canna came in a 2-inch plug, so a real small plug that I potted in a 6-inch pot. And now the roots are growing out. So does your pot have solid sides or? Okay, so it's really restricted then. The advantage that I have with the net pots is it doesn't matter. The roots can grow out and grow everywhere. But with the solid wall pot, then I would probably put a 2-inch size plug. So let's just use that as an example. You could still put it in a 6-inch. It's going to outgrow it. I'd probably go ahead and use like an 8-inch. Just imagine that this was a solid wall pot, something about that size. So if you have, something you're transitioning from this size to this size, does that make sense? But it kind of depends too on how fast that particular plant grows. A lot of aquatic plants grow really fast and can outgrow container pretty quickly. But that's just kind of a good rule of thumb. Does that answer your question?
Okay, well, another one is, so I have pitcher plants.
Yeah.
So they don't get fertilized because they need fertilizer.
Yeah.
But the marginals in the pot with the pitcher plant, they're not eating those. So how do I fertilize them?
Yeah, they're all in the same container. You have carnivorous plants and plants like this, marginals. Yeah, the moneywort. That's right. You got that from here, didn't you? You got it from me. Yeah. Is it doing well? Good. Well, in the case of moneywort, it spreads and grows in the water. It's going to be getting a lot of nutrients from just directly from that water. Is it growing pretty well, or is it kind of, as long as it's growing well and looks healthy, you know, it's solid green, dark green, it's blooming like it needs to be, I wouldn't worry about fertilizing it because it apparently is getting what it needs, you know, from the water. So yeah, that's kind of my philosophy on any plant, any of these aquatic plants is I'm not going to just fertilize for the heck of it. If they are showing signs of needing it, then yeah, I'm going to fertilize. Or if I know that my fertilizer is only good for 30 days or 6 weeks or whatever, then I can get on the schedule to fertilize. But yeah, as long as the plant like is dark green and it's supposed to be dark green and is growing, then I don't worry about fertilizing necessarily. So, does that answer your question? Anybody else?
What kind of fertilizer?
Well, we like to use Pond Tabs. It's a company called Pond Tabs, and they make aquatic plant fertilizers, and it's just like a pill that you don't want to have to swallow because that would hurt going down. You just push it down into the substrate. You just set it on top. You just set it on top of the substrate and push it down in there about a finger's depth. And this is designed for aquatic plant use. So as long as you're using it as directed, it's not going to cause nutrient problems. Go ahead.
What about snails?
Snails. Snails can also be a very beneficial part of an ecosystem. And they are kind of like algae. A lot of people don't like snails. And a lot of people have had bad experiences with snails because when there's not enough food in the environment for them, or if they overpopulate, they will start eating plants. Now, some species of snails are automatically going to eat plants, and those are ones I try not to keep in mind if I can help it. But there's one type of snail that's just going to show up no matter what you do, and that's called bladder snail or pond snail. And it's everywhere. It's in every body of water. But I have not had bad experiences with snails at all. I grow that type, the bladder snail, and also ram's horn snails in my ponds, and I haven't had any issue with them. If I start to see them everywhere on the sides, I might go in there and remove some of them because I don't want them to overpopulate. But snails will feed on dead, decaying plant matter. So if you're managing the dead plant matter, removing it, then you're not going to have too much of an issue with snails because you're taking away their main food source, so they can't reproduce as quickly. So what you want to avoid is them having enough food to reproduce quickly and then they run out, and that's when you run into problems. So, yeah, that's kind of my take on snails. Does that answer your question? Anybody else?
Do the fish you mentioned cohabitate well?
The rice fish and what else? Goldfish? What's that?
The mosquito fish?
The mosquito fish?
Do they cohabitate well?
In my experience, they do. There are different species of mosquito fish depending on what part of the country you live in, and I can't speak for other areas of the country, but in my experience, the ones we have here cohabitate pretty well with the rice fish. So I haven't had too much issue with that. Now, I don't normally keep them together because I don't normally keep mosquito fish, but I've had them before and haven't had an issue. Go ahead, in the back. Yeah, you in the back.
I don't know this necessarily for, I'm just thinking of other wildlife as far as like dogs and mosquito dumps.
Mhm.
Do you know by chance if we have dogs, I have one that loves to drink just water wherever it's at.
Yeah.
Do you know if it still stays?
Yeah, it's still safe. It's okay if dogs or any animal drinks out of it. It's not going to be a problem. Now, if you don't want your dog drinking out of this, it's pretty easy to create a fence around it of some sort. You know, again, part of the benefit of something this size is you can do what you need to do to prevent certain things from happening. So I would not want my dog drinking out of mine personally, but some people don't mind. But it's just up to you. But I don't think it would be harmful if they did. But yeah, it's safe for animals. It's safe for animals to drink. You know.
I was gonna say, how much do you need to cut them down, like
In the winter, I mean, just pretty much to the height of the pot, or maybe an inch or two. Really, with the water celery, after it dies back, I mean, it's pretty much going to just, you can remove it by hand if you let it die completely. And the umbrella sedge, something that's thicker and more dense like this, you're going to have to cut them back because they'll just be dead stalks everywhere. So on these, I would cut them back, you know, about 2 or 3 inches above the level of the media in there. So, go ahead.
Is there a screen on the pump that you have to clean out? Like,
No, it doesn't come with a screen. It's easy to disassemble to clean out if you need to. Can be helpful to put a screen on there, or a piece of foam. If you have like sheet foam of some kind, just cut a piece out and kind of wrap it around and put a rubber band around that, and that kind of helps act as a pre-filter. So I don't use a screen on ours here, haven't really needed to, and I don't have to, it just hasn't really been an issue. I haven't had to. No. There's enough protection that keeps the fish from being able to get inside there. Yeah, but with larger pumps in a larger pond, that could be a concern. So that's a good question.
have you had problems with, like, I don't know, do birds come and try to, like, eat things out of it?
I have not to my knowledge. I have not had the problems. Like herons are a bad bird. They're important to our ecosystem here in Mississippi, but man, they can tear up some fish. I mean, I live in an area where there are plenty of herons. I haven't seen any herons in my backyard, or haven't noticed large numbers of fish missing. Raccoons are another issue for a lot of people, especially with goldfish ponds. I haven't had an issue with raccoons, and I live in an area with plenty of them. So, yeah, the biggest predator issue that I've had personally has been dragonflies. Dragonflies will, they lay their eggs in the water, and their nymph stage, their immature stage, is in the water. They're aquatic at that point, and they predate on small fish and small organisms. And rice fish, being as small as they are, can be a target for dragonfly larvae. So that hasn't been a huge problem, but I have, especially trying to breed the fish. You have so many babies that you're just going to lose to dragonflies. It's just part of it. So that's kind of the issue I've had. So yeah, now raccoons, they can tear up any kind of pond they get into. They're going to dig around and they can just tear everything up. But again, if that's the case, trying to locate it somewhere where they're less likely to do that, or building some sort of fence or barrier all the way around it could be an option if you wanted to go to those lengths. So, any more questions? Go ahead.
Does the pump and fountain run continuously, or just you're out there? Does it matter?
It doesn't really matter. We let ours run continuously, and it's okay. They're kind of designed for that, to just run continuously. But again, the running water isn't 100% critical for the well-being of the pond. So you can turn it off, and that's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. Yeah, if you want to keep it running, you can. Simple as that.
Actually, I have two. I had a lot of trouble. I had a small in-ground pond, and talking about the algae, I've also learned that they built a net at the
Yeah, there are some products like that out there, and they can definitely help with debris and algae and all that. Yeah.
And the other thing is, we're at Rock County. How hard do you need to research? How often do you find like rocks that are harmful to your fish or plants? Is that an issue? We do a lot of like quartz and crystals and
Mm-hmm.
Agate and jasper.
yeah.
I got you. I couldn't claim to be an expert on that subject, but there are certain types of stone that will dissolve over time, in the water. But like the pea gravel that I use, that's perfectly safe. You can use sandstone, flagstone, fieldstone, that kind of a thing. That's safe to use. But beyond that, I don't know much about using those more exotic, stone pieces. But so that might require some more homework to figure that out. So.
But for aquariums, they tell you don't use anything close to railroads, close to highways.
Yeah, that's right.
Like that.
Yeah, chemicals are another issue, like
They'll suck it up.
pesticides. Yeah. Now that is something I do try to be careful of when I'm selecting rocks. I've learned not to use them from my front yard because I used to spray Roundup all over my front yard, and so there's Roundup residue all over those stones. So now I try to source them, from aquarium store, or I'll put in a plug for Morgan's All Natural Stone. They have tons of different types of stone and good selection, and I think most of those would be okay. But it's always a good idea to wash any type of stone or rock beforehand, even let it soak just to make sure it's not, releasing something, oil or whatever. Anybody else? I don't know how we are on time. I could sit here and talk about this all day. I literally could. So, if 10:50, okay.
I'm curious, how many people are already water gardeners? Are these long-time listeners, first-time callers, or ladies?
Got 1, 2,
So they are. Y'all did it?
yeah.
Seems like people from out of state, New Orleans, people come. I mean, I guess this is not everywhere. I mean, water plants are not easy to find apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're trying to be the destination for aquatic plants and water gardening here in the state. And I think there's a need for it. I mean, just the fact that all of you turned out today shows me that there is an interest in this. And, over the years, I've looked around for local places to buy aquatic plants. I've never found them. I've had people that come here from different parts of the state and even outside of the state, that'll say, we don't have a place that sells aquatic plants. And so we're really trying to be that place, for the state. And hopefully we'll get more and more interest and traffic over time. But go ahead.
Did you specifically talk about, I know you referred to Plant Life Project on YouTube, and I might have missed the beginning if you introduced that, and make sure everybody
Yeah.
knows how to find that resource.
Okay, yeah, I did mention it briefly in the introduction that I started a YouTube channel. So, I'm on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in Plant Life Project, and my channel should pop up. I've also got a website, plantlifeprojects.com, and if you go there, you'll end up at my YouTube channel. So, I guess we'll wrap it up now. Go ahead.
Can I make one shameless plug? Number one, thank y'all again for coming. And in this space that we're enjoying this morning with this wonderful presentation, for us to be able to sit here in the midst of a busy day and learn, I just want to introduce the space that you're sitting in because it's new to us. I recognize a lot of faces. You guys may have shopped here for a long time and remember that this used to be a furniture store where a lot of furniture in here came from. But it is new for us. We're still developing it. We're calling it the Dandelion. It is a venue space for meetings just like this, parties, birthday parties, any kind of event that this space would hold. If you're interested, just know that is something new that we're doing here at Gardenworks. Obviously, I think you plug that we have a lot of events of our own going on.
I forgot to mention those, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we do have a schedule of events, on paper that is scheduled through the end of June, and then we'll pick up July to December, and we'll have the second half of the year coming out soon. But there are flyers on that little Chinese piece of furniture under the Mississippi Magazine things. Pick up, there's 3 of them over there that we have still to go until the end of June. And one of which is a full celebration week for our 40th year anniversary. So Alan's parents bought this property in 1985, it was 40 years ago. Alan and I purchased the whole thing from them in '05, which is 20 years ago. So we have a lot to celebrate. This space, the renovation, just a lot going on. Plant Life Project, White Plant, just a lot of new things going on here at Gardenworks. So just wanted y'all to know about that if you're interested, to know more. There's also a workshop space behind that wall, it's part of this room that we're hosting, or we can, custom build a workshop for you, for your group of people, so
We do
just wanted
children's
y'all to know that.
birthday parties, church groups that come here, wedding party, all
Got all
weddings,
kind of stuff
announcement party. So you got a kid with a birthday in the heat of the summer, pretty fun in here.
Just wanted to let y'all know that's going on. Thanks.
Well, at this point, I would like to invite y'all to come out to the aquatic plant section and check it out. Today we have a 15% off sale, 15% off, not 50, 15%. On all aquatic plants and products. So that's going on today only. Tomorrow it won't be in effect. So now would be a good time to stock up if you want to. But if not, I would still love to see y'all out there. Let me show you around. Would love to answer more questions if I need to. My plan is to be able to hang out at the aquatic plant section all day today. So help me with that.
Explain where the products are, too.
Oh yeah, and all these products that I've been talking about, the treatments and the dechlorinators and all that, the fountains, are going to be in our chemical room, which is straight at the end of this building, basically. If you just walk through the door and keep going, we have a room that we have our chemical products in. We also, in the center of it, we have all our pond care products and planters. We got all these different shapes and sizes of planters. Mosquito dunks. Please get a mosquito dunk.
And there's a television in there running on top of the little tower where all these things are. We keep Plant Life Project videos playing all the time. So
Yeah.
people can stop and learn a little something.
Yeah, in one of those videos, I go through all these different products and talk about them. So if you're in there trying to decide, what do I get? This is just overwhelming. You can just look up, not to the heavens, but look up to the TV. and there I will be talking about all these different products. So yeah, I did that to hopefully help people, because I really want people to understand what they're buying, what they're getting into, and whether they actually need it or not. And so that's part of our goal too, is not just to sell you a bunch of stuff, but we want you to, learn about it over time and know what you need. And I want people to be able to come here and geek out with me on this. That's what the real plan is. I need some plant life friends. That's what I need. No, I have those, thankfully, but more are welcome for sure. So I think that's everything. Thank you all for coming out. This has been great. I enjoyed it.